Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid Butt, and we are going to discuss in today's edition the recent escalation of tensions between Iran and the United States. As you know, in the wee hours of the morning, Iran has fired more than a dozen missiles on Iraq. And of course, they said that there have been casualties, around 80 American casualties, something that has not been confirmed, nor has it been denied by the US. US President Donald Trump said that as all is well, that was a tweet that we had read some time back. And he said that for the moment there's no casualty. So also our Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, in a statement this morning, while regretting the incident, also talked about the absence of any casualty, but that we will only know with due time whether there have been any casualties or not. But nevertheless, there has been a series of missile strikes by the Iranian side on US sites that were in Iraq. Now, this is of course in retaliation to the US drone strike that was resulted in the death of Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani, and this has raised the escalation between Iran and the United States to a whole new level. As you know, that there was a nuclear deal with the P5+1 with Iran that was scrapped by the US side, and since then there have been multiple allegations time and time again by the US side, but this time this has risen to a whole new level. Now, to discuss what are the repercussions of this new spate of escalations between the US and Iran, where is it all going to lead to, will both sides restrain themselves now that there has been a return strike by Iran? To talk about that and more, we've been joined by two important guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is former Ambassador Aslam Rizvi Saab. Rizvi Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. You know how the region functions diplomatically, so we'll get a diplomatic point of view from your side. Our second guest is Brigadier Retired Khalid Mahmood Saab. You're a senior analyst. Brigadier Saab, thank you very much to have joined us as well. Let's begin with you, Aslam Rizvi Saab. You must have been watching, as all of us are, the rise in tension, the rise in escalation between the United States and Iran. Now, these recent missile strikes by Iran, did you think something that this could happen from Iran? Firstly, this is the first question, because a lot of people had question marks once it happened. They did not even believe that this had happened. Do you think this was something that was preempted by Iran after the death of Soleimani?
Well, it was very clear that the Iranian leadership, and not only the leadership, but all the Iranian people, express their anger, number one, for what had happened. The United States had unilaterally, and in violation of the international norm, even within the United Nations' own laws, had gone and accused, convicted Soleimani and took him out. Now, this is something which was not a new that has happened from the United States. They have also targeted many others, calling them as terrorists and taking them out. We had in our own country, Osama bin Laden. It was done here. As far as Soleimani is concerned, you know, it is said that the two previous presidents had also thought of eliminating him, but were very concerned about the possible repercussions of that. But we see that President Trump has gone ahead and citing imminent danger, not said so, but claiming that there were evidence that that he was planning something big against the Americans. Although the Minister of Defense didn't mention imminent thing, and now the Congress is going to hear what necessitated for him to take such an action. Now, as for the retaliation from there, the Iranians have said that we have done this under the United Nations with the right of reply to what they had done. And you rightly it's been said that so many bodies have been killed. There is no news of it at all. Also, that CNN mentioned the fact that the Americans had the forewarning that the missile attacks were coming, and all the soldiers in this military camp were in the bunkers, and they have to wait till the daylight to be able to ascertain how many casualties, what has been done. And President Trump also was supposed to make a statement as to what will be the further action. Now, his first statement, of course, was all is well.
Yes.
So, this...
I mean, that of course necessitated the fact that there were no casualties. That was evident from what he was saying.
So, there we are. So, my own understanding is that, as you know, what the taking out of the general caused immense concern throughout the world. And not only that, but both the Iranians as well as the Americans talked about de-escalation.
Exactly.
And everybody was tense, waiting to see what will happen.
All right. Before we come to de-escalation, Brigadier Sahab, I would like to ask you about the strategic implication of such an event. Now, there is something when you take out a military commander that you say was planning something against the country. Well, let's see what is the evidence that US President Donald Trump is going to put in front of the Congress today. But as far as the retaliation is concerned and missile strikes are concerned, strategically, how does that escalate or not tensions between two countries that are really at loggerheads?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I thank you very much for inviting me here to speak on this subject. First of all, let me show our concern that whatever is happening around in the region, all Pakistanis and Muslims are very much concerned because Iran is a brotherly country and we enjoy very good relations.
Exactly.
Not diplomatically, culturally, we have a trade relationship and it has the long history. So it is quite unfortunate the situation is escalating to that point. Coming to your question about the strategic implications, I think the USA has selected very carefully a very important target to hit Iran. USA wanted to hit Iran very badly, where Iran would be hurt the most.
It attacks the commander in Iraq.
In Iraq. Yes. And that is the point, that the turf it has chosen, it is not mainland of Iran. So it implies certain things. On the other side, we see that the Iran has retaliated, and from its own territory, it has fired dozen plus missiles on Iraqi bases which are occupied by the US forces. I think the response is mild, and they are showing their anger, and now they have demonstrated their anger by firing these missiles. Both sides, I think they will and they are avoiding the attack on the mainland. Now strategically what would happen, we just don't know. But one thing we can guess that if Iran goes for the response which is beyond the imagination of the USA.
And certain sections of the press have been mentioning very weird statements stating that if something happens from the US side, then Iran will go above and beyond and target other countries as well.
Other countries also. And both countries, previously it was the war of the world, but now it has come to the demonstration.
Exactly.
Iran has already demonstrated. Now we have to see what USA is going to do in retaliation.
All right.
I hope that the tension between these two countries that is going down in near future. But
you don't see that happening in reality?
Not in near future.
All right.
Not in near future, because we can see the past history of both countries. It started from 1979 with the revolution of the Iran and overthrow of the Shah of Iran. And till now, we have seen the escalation ladder very erratic in nature. Sometimes USA was going for the sanctions and very harsh sanctions, and sometimes we have seen that they are carrying out the negotiations between Iran, and they have come to the concluding of that nuclear deal in 2015. So we can't say anything at this moment.
All right, we can't say anything at this moment, but there's one thing that I'd like to extend and to ask you what your point of view is diplomatically, somebody who's been an ambassador in the past as well. When Qasem Soleimani is, killed in the attack that happens in Iraq, the missile strikes are in Iraq on US bases. I mean, this is not neither in the US nor in Iran. It happens in a third country, that is Iraq. What kind of a diplomatic how should I say, repercussion does it have? Because the two countries have not really aimed at each other directly, at each other. I mean, what I mean, they have aimed at their corners, but in a third country. Why are they attempting that in a third country? A, Iraq, that is. And thirdly, we've also seen the retaliation that has come from Iraq side. When Qasem Soleimani was killed, they said they should not have been done, and of course the statement was very harsh from their side as well. But how do you feel that Iraq is going to retaliate in all of this?
Well, if a retaliation is taken to another country, that's a violation of the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and so on. It has other implications as well. But they are talking about a terrorist being removed from somewhere in the world, not directly. He may have one nationality. The Iraqis themselves, they are the victims. I mean, they are become a proxy, from both sides being used. That happens usually when you have such conflicts. One mustn't forget that in the background of this, there was Trump had said that he'll be pulling out from the Middle East.
Yes.
And Iraq has now asked for the troops to, the parliament has asked, it had to go to the cabinet to be decided. They're going to pull out. So the whole thing that has happened there is going to play out in a different way, as one can see. But coming back as to the de-escalation I was talking about.
Because when we talk of de-escalation, I'm sorry to cut you short, but Antonio Guterres has talked about de-escalation. Our foreign minister has talked about de-escalation. He has said he has gotten in touch with many other foreign ministers of other countries to talk about that situation as well, and how it's going to emanate regionally as a crisis. So yes, please continue.
Yes. Well, what we see is that a question mark about whether the strike really took place, number one. Number two, how many people were killed? None were killed. And one claiming we have the victory, the other claiming otherwise. Doesn't it ring a bell in our region? The Balakot attack, claiming that they destroyed something. Pakistan retaliating, firing in the open field, showing the capacity and so on. Now both sides claim that we have vindicated our position. So this is a clear de-escalation from here. Things have been cooled down from there, both claiming victory. But a lot depends, as rightly said by Brigadier here, that what Trump says in his speech. Of course, there would be rhetoric, very strong statements and so on. You already also had a strong statement from the Iranians, saying that if you attack on our soil, on the territory of Iran, we will retaliate in the United States. Of course, they would have to sleeper cells and so on. So the rhetorics will be there. But my own feeling is that it's going to now cool
down. Die
down.
Or cool down. Not die down, but cool down.
But cool down. Gradually will cool down and may not escalate. Of course, this is for the time being, and I think it has served Mr. Trump's one or two purposes. One, of course, as I said, that it gives him leverage to pull out the troops now from there, because the Iraqis are asking them to go out from there, and this is a pledge for the elections. That's point one. Number two, it was said that Bill Clinton, went to war because of his impeachment, and he's facing that also. So I think there was many, speculations.
A lot of question marks as well, aren't there? Now, speaking of question marks, I'll refer to the tweet by Donald Trump, the last one, that he said, Brigadier Khalid Mahmood Sahib, and he says that an assessment of casualties and damage from the strikes was underway, and that he would make a statement in the morning. And as he said, all is well so far, so good. We have the most powerful and well-equipped military anywhere in the world by far. Is it also an indirect threat as far as a military strike on Iran or Iranian interests is concerned?
As far as the casualties are concerned, I think we would never know the exact number. As Rizvi Saab has rightly pointed out that during Indian-Pakistani duel last year in February, we have seen the Indian Prime Minister claiming that 200 people have been killed.
Exactly.
And they are asking for the investigation. So it was a joke. And we know that they came here and they bombed only the fields. And what we did that we took everybody to those fields and shown them on ground that here is the field and you can see themselves. But I think that is not going to happen in case of Iraq. One thing which is good about USA that they notify all the casualties they suffer anywhere in the world.
All right. They don't keep it a secret.
They don't keep it a secret. And I hope that they do it this time also.
All right.
The other question, the other part of the question was about the might of the United States.
Because in the treaty does talk about the US Army being the largest in the world.
He has to because it is about 3.8 billion strong force in the world, which has almost 4,800 bases on 7 continents. So they can rightly talk about it. And the Iran, it is being surrounded by military forces of USA. We see that the presence of US troops in Saudi Arabia, in Iraq, in Qatar, in Oman, in Kuwait, right? So they can rightly say because they have to demonstrate that they are the superpower. Yes.
All right. Well, on one end, Ambassador Aslam Rizvi Saab, the US points out that it is a superpower. On the other hand, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif, while talking to state television, said that the attacks were a legitimate self-defense. How much do you consider the reaction, the missile strikes by Iran being a legitimate self-defense as claimed by the Iranian Foreign Minister? As a diplomat, so I'd like your point of view.
Here is a bit, I think, nebulous because the self-defense would have been if it was within Iran itself. This is my opinion, I feel, because the attack took place in a third country. So it was not Iran which was attacked. Yes, an Iranian national was attacked, certainly. So the right of self-defense would not apply. But you could say that they had the right to respond. From their legitimate, tit for tat kind of a thing from there. But certainly this was a violation on the part of the Americans because it is of the United Nations Charter. That was the thing. Now, just a quick comment also regarding the casualties not being, they disclosed fully. I don't agree with that, and it's a fact that they learned a lesson from Vietnam and the demonstrations that took place as a result, and they had to pull back. And in Afghanistan, they have stopped showing the number of casualties there for a long time. They don't indicate that the casualties are there. So they will, it all depends whether they will downplay this, then they will, try and obfuscate about what the damage was done or how many casualties were done, or if they want to play it up, of course, they can do so.
All right.
So, but the point is that this today, the situation is little better than it was yesterday, as far as this conflict, as far as this the killing of the general was concerned, because we have a situation now when both sides seem to be, not wanting war, and have seemed to be, saying one thing which, satisfying both on the side, and they can move forward.
All right.
But how long for? I think, in my opinion,
only time will tell.
No, I would say that will be sooner than expected. Why? Because the main issue, which is between the United States and Iran, is of course their alleged involvement in the other areas in Syria and Lebanon and etc. And the nuclear program of Iran. Although
which it has said is rolling back, or it's not rolling back, it's coming back to it.
It's coming back. Now, the Israelis are the main people who are, the Prime Minister is pushing to you know, take actions against Iran for a long time, because after having done away and just, you know, number of other countries which could face Israel, expansionism, Israel's role in the Middle East, so they are you know, trying to, this is what is being done. I mean, in Libya and all the others, they've got everybody now joining in. I mean, look, just imagine the other day the Prime Minister Netanyahu making a comment that in Dubai, I think there's an exhibition coming up there. He says this will be a window for us to show our products to the entire world and so on. So they have moved away from a political, now they're also going into economic cooperation with the Middle East countries.
All right. Now, speaking of cooperation, economic or otherwise, and Israel's role in the escalation of tensions as far as whatever is happening with Iran is concerned. Now, the US might want to maybe de-escalate tensions, but there is the pressure of Israel, as it always has been, and we know how influenced the US is through Israel. Do you feel that Israel is going to play, in your point of view, sir, a strategic role as well in the escalation or not of tension in the future between Iran and the US after what has happened now?
I think it has 2-3 angles. Number one is that why USA has attacked a very high value target in Iraq. They must have thought about it, and that Iraq is a third country. They have not attacked mainland Iran. One thing is very certain, and we have seen in the past, that wherever they want to attack and whosoever they want to take out, they create the excuse. USA always, they create the excuse. We have seen it in Iraq previously, the weapons of mass destruction, and we have seen it in Afghanistan. We have seen it in so many other countries. So they have said that they have done it in self-defense, which Rizvi Saab has said that it is internationally not accepted. The other angle is about Israel. If their main target is the nuclear bases or the nuclear capability or the capacity of Iran, they should go all out to destroy all the nuclear sites wherever they are in Iran. But they are not doing it. I suppose that the assassination of Mr. Soleimani was to address two issues, and those are political issues. One is to address the impeachment process, and the other one
in the US.
And the other one that they create an excuse to pull out from Middle East. These could be two plausible reasons to me.
But speaking of pull out, I mean, there's something that's very interesting. At the same moment, we're talking of the US troops pull out from Afghanistan. And that has been reiterated time and again by a US President Donald Trump. Do you feel that there's going to be a pullout and a redeployment of troops in regions around Iran now that this tension has escalated between the two countries?
I don't think so. I think in the end, what American people, they also want that their troops, they should come home. It is, I think, enough past 2-3 decades. America is fighting war either in Afghanistan or in Iraq or now in Middle East. So at large, American people, they do not endorse this. So overall pulse, I think, is that you pull out your troops from Middle East. I don't think and I don't see it happening, redeployment of the forces in Middle East. And if at all they have to do it, they have got all the capabilities to neutralize any site in Iran. They have,
and they haven't done so yet. I mean, they haven't targeted any such target in Iran, inside of Iran as yet.
Inside Iran. So
all right.
They don't want.
Ambassador Saab, do you feel something like that could happen in the future? Well, targeting sites inside of Iran. At this moment, till this moment, there hasn't been a strike inside of Iran.
Yes. Well, you know, let's accept the fact that America is the sole superpower right now. And you have a leader, the president, who is unorthodox, who does what he wants to do, and not constrained from the United Nations or by other agreements with anybody, even his own country's own Congress, his own parliament, not to stay. He does what he wants to do. So, and he also even talked about the fact that he would attack the cultural sites in Tehran.
Something that he refrained from afterwards. I mean,
Well,
he did not
he hasn't repeated
reiterate
it.
it.
Yes, but you know, it's a war crime. It's listed as a war crime.
Yes.
So, but you know, perhaps he wasn't aware, and you see after that there is no more further mention on that. But I think what the Americans are really looking is to renegotiate the nuclear deal that had happened with the Iranians. They have said so. That's why they pulled out, and that they want to discuss the missiles plus their involvement in the rest of the Middle East. And Trump has gone out of his way to offer to talk, and it is the Iranians who have said no on that. So his objective, I think, still remains the same, that he wants to, before the election, to try and get the Iranians to negotiate, and just like he did try, and you know, things are, according to him, appear to be honky-dory when in reality they are not, with North Korea. You know, nothing has happened, but he projected it as if,
in fact, North Korea is going ahead with the deployment of more missiles and the advancement in their technology.
But I mean, for a time, he got something. He would like to see something happening now. It will help him and his election campaign.
All right.
And now, why I said this thing will be, for the time being, it will not escalate, is because as you come closer to the election time, and the nuclear deal will be then played up both by Israel and as well as United States itself, and pressure on Iran to come to the negotiating table and so on, and to discuss this, otherwise they will take out. And who knows? I mean, there is a possible danger at that time that they've been talking about the nuclear attack. It's been reported in media certain time. The Israelis wanted to do it, but the Americans persuaded them not to do so. So as we go along in time ahead, it may well be that they might contemplate some.
All right. Renegotiation of a possible nuclear deal or a new nuclear deal between Iran and the US after the US pulled out of the 2015 deal. Do you feel this will happen? Do you feel Iran is going to succumb to it? Do you feel that Iran might come under pressure or might not come under pressure? Now that Iran has also declared that it is going back, I mean, it's reversing the decisions that had been taken after 2015.
First of all, if you want to solve any issue, it is through the negotiations and through the peace means, not by punishing someone. Now, because then you expect the retaliation. Coming over to this scenario which you are talking about, if we see the format of USA in past, we have seen that they had imposed sanctions on Iraq, and once Iraq came to the knees, they invaded Iraq, and they did whatever they wanted to do.
Is Iran in a similar situation?
Iran is not in a similar situation, but I think USA can go ahead with more restrictions, more embargoes, and Iran, the USA can hit Iran economically than militarily. And once it comes to that situation, they can talk about some deal or whatever. But on the other side, if we see the Iranian nation, it is a very, very, I think, different nation. What is the asset of a country? It's people. And you see the body language of the people of the nation. And they are standing by their great leaders. And if you can destroy the country, you cannot destroy the people. We have seen it happening in Palestine. We have seen it happening in Indian-held Kashmir. You cannot suppress the people. So Iranians are a different breed. They would retaliate. They would do whatever is possible, but they would not succumb to the pressure of USA.
All right. Now, Aslam Rizvi Saab, at the funeral of Qasim Soleimani, there were a lot of people, there were droves of people in fact, and there were people weeping at it, and death to America was something that was reiterated again and again at the funeral. Supreme Leader Khamenei also wept as he led the prayers in Tehran. There is a very strong emotional wave post the killing of Qasem Soleimani. Do you see, I mean, you talk about de-escalation from the Iranian side post the missile strikes, but seeing the emotional rhetoric that is coming from Iran, do you feel it might or might not die down?
Well, they have a long history, of course, United States and Iranian relations going back after the Shah in particular. Painstakingly how the Iranians were able to take the documents in the Iranian embassy, even when they were shredded, they combined them together, and they were able to even know who were working for them and so forth. So this is very for them. They cannot forget how the Americans attempted to attack them even then during President Carter's time. And the sanctions that have brought so much misery and hardship for the Iranian people. And when they, especially when they feel that the rest of the world is supporting them, I mean, the major powers did agree on the nuclear deal and so on. And it is their assets which are lying there. So unilaterally somebody comes, violation of agreement and so on. So it's not only the grief of losing a well-respected, well-liked general, but also the behavior of the United States, adding to the history that they have from there, that is, they came out into their strong thing. Now, it is already the leadership, their statements have come from there that we have indicated our position, we have, from there we have retaliated and to compensating for what they have done. So let's hope that this doesn't go further.
All right. Well, when we talk of things not going further, Brigadier Khalid Mahmood Saab, there's also the statements that emanate from Pakistan. Now, Pakistan, as far as its relation with Iran, its relation with the US is concerned, is kind of in between. It tries to strike a balance in its relationship with both the countries. Now, the Foreign Office says, of course, our Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi Saab took out a statement this morning. He said that Jawad Zarif, the Iranian Foreign Minister, as per his statement, does not want an escalation of tension. That is what we've been talking about as well. And he talked about the contacts that he's had with different foreign ministers of other countries, including that of Qatar, who had told him that he had also initiated talks with Iran. He also said that the region cannot afford war. And a huge segment in the US also does not want war. We'll come to that because I also want to discuss what the Democrats are talking about. But before that, I'd like to talk about what Pakistan's stance is all of this is. How important do you feel Pakistan's role is going to be as far as de-escalating tensions between Iran and the US is concerned? Do you feel Pakistan can play a role?
Absolutely. I think our Prime Minister also and the Foreign Minister also, they wanted de-escalation. I'm talking about the present situation. But if we see the geographical location of the Pakistan, of our Pakistan, it is unique in the region strategically. So we can play our role. And with this government, I think Prime Minister Imran Khan has been making earnest efforts. He has been going to Saudis, he has been going to so many other countries, and diplomatically I think Pakistan has given a very good response that is based on one statement that we would be part of any peace efforts and we would not be part of any warmongering or be part of war of any other country which is not related to us. So I think up till now Pakistan has played its role very positively.
All right. It has distanced itself from taking sides basically. It wants to remain as neutral as possible.
I think we cannot afford because our relationship with the Iranian, our relationship with Saudis, with other Middle Eastern countries, and our relationship with the USA even, with Afghanistan, it is very critical and it is very sensitive. We have to be very careful.
All right. Assalam Rizvi Sahab, I'll continue with some more quotes from what Shah Mahmood Qureshi Sahab said in his statement today. He said Pakistan believes that this current situation, this current escalation of tensions can be resolved through talks. He also said Pakistan wants peace. Peace resolution through talks. How much of a possibility do you see that under the current circumstances?
Well, as you recall that after the PM's visit to the United States, there was a mention that the President Trump had asked him to help out the relations with Iran. So it's something which has come from the side. We are not trying to box above our weight. So there was an approach earlier also. Secondly, Pakistan, there is also a political angle as well as security one. Interestingly, during this, right after the killing, you had the call from Mr. Pompeo to our army chief, not to the Prime Minister. I think that indicates that they were thinking more in line in terms of the security implication of what action they had taken. And I think one of the obvious one could be the worry about their embassy here in reaction in Pakistan, because some years back we did march down to the American embassy and attack that. I happened to live in the diplomatic enclave, and immediately after that you saw Rangers being deployed in the region and so on. So there is the security angle and the political angle as well. Because see, Iran, Pakistan's one of the most important worry for us is being one of the countries who are, of course, oil dependent from the Middle East, and like other countries. And so we want to make sure that there is, the oil supply doesn't get interrupted. The American can sit pretty; they are self-sufficient already. They wouldn't care too much about the allies in Europe as well, because you've seen this happening in many other ways from here. But it is we, the developing countries and so on, which will be badly affected if this were to happen. I think we are probably, our reserves are perhaps for a month or so, etc. So it is in our interest also for the regional region, because we are, as you know, also involved in Afghanistan, and that gets sidetracked also if the peace is not, it gets on the wayside. So we should be doing everything possible to not be moving away from our focus on Afghanistan and the region and worrying about our economic situation. So that is why the foreign minister has been around in the region and so on. But unfortunately,
are talks a solution? This is what I'm kind of trying to understand. Are talks the solution? Will this really happen? Will talks really go forward after what has happened between the two countries?
Well, I think that all depends how things are going to move forward from here. Most importantly, Mr. Trump's, what does he say now? And I think there will be, certainly I think others will try and discuss China and Russia in particular. They have some things to say in the region. So I imagine also from the European countries too may come forward and make sure they will try to see that, they know that there has been some cooling down, that maybe a dialogue side moving in Pakistan because of his good as an honest broker in the region, because the others are suspect, the Europeans are suspect and so forth. We have good relations with the neighbor, as in the beginning pointed out, and with America as well, so we can have a role.
All right. Speaking of Pakistan's role, we've talked a little bit about that and the importance of Pakistan's role being a neutral country as far as the escalation of tensions between the United States and Iran is concerned. But there's also that segment in the United States, the Democrats, of course, that are saying that the world cannot afford war. This is what the statement that has emanated. Now, whether it be Nancy Pelosi, she said on Twitter, she's closely monitoring the situation following the bombing target U.S. troops in Iraq. We must ensure the safety of our service members, and we cannot afford war. We cannot afford war. When U.S. People from the U.S. Congress say that they cannot afford war, it does have a certain weightage, doesn't it? But will that weightage really count in the long run, strategically speaking?
Strategically speaking, talks are the only solution
Hmm.
for any issue,
All right.
if you really want the solution.
Hmm.
Second portion, that would Pakistan be able to help in this?
Hmm.
We have to see and analyze the leverage Pakistan enjoys over Iran,
Hmm.
or leverage it is enjoying over USA. Talking about USA, I think if USA wants us to play some role, Pakistan would be more than happy to play its role.
All right.
And talking about Iran, I think we proactively should approach them and render our services, if we can do something to de-escalate the situation. Talking about the US Congress, House of Representative at this moment is not in the favor of Donald Trump.
We know the impeachment process is also
Yeah,
in process.
we know the impeachment process, and 53% or more they are against Trump. And that is the reason that Nancy Pelosi also said that we have to de-escalate the situation, or we have to come back from the ladder we have gone up.
All right.
that
De-escalation
level.
of tension is, ladies and gentlemen, what is the need of the hour, whether it is the sectors in the US that are saying, whether it is Pakistan that is saying that, whether it is other countries that are saying that. Even Iran's statement post the missile strikes has been talking of de-escalation. De-escalation, we all hope, does happen in the days to come, and that both sides come to talks, whether it is to de-escalate tension or come to a renegotiation of the nuclear deal that has been stalled by the US. That was, of course, signed between Iran and the P5+1. We will be, of course, talking about this topic because this is an ongoing thing. President Donald Trump also has to address the Congress, and we will know what he has to say about how the US will proceed post the attacks on the US bases. Till then, stay tuned on PTV World. We'll be updating you as and when more comes along that way. Ambassador Aslam Rizvi Sahab, Brigadier Khalid Mahmood Sahab, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you tomorrow, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.